Friends, good morning, and welcome to worship here on this Sunday morning from the historic sanctuary of the Fountain Street Church in Grand Rapids, Michigan, here on this first Sunday after Christmas. In a very traditional sense. Folks, Christmas is 12 days long. I don't know where this country got off the rails. It's putting the trees away and packing stuff up. We still got presents to unwrap. I'm going to share this with you because this isn't coming up for a couple weeks, but it's absolutely delightful, and Mary Glider is organizing this. In about 3 weeks, we're going to have a banned book exchange here at the church. On Sunday, January 19th, after the 11 a.m. service, you are encouraged to purchase and wrap a banned book. Get out there, find them. They're out there in the world. They've been banned by the principals and authorities of the world. But the idea is that you'll wrap this banned book in plain brown paper, tie it with some string, and then you'll give it away to each other. Exchange them, if you will, on Sunday morning, January 19th, after the service. If this is interesting to you, sign up for the chimes and pay attention to the newsletter, and we'll get more information out to you about this as soon as possible. A couple of other announcements for items that are coming up in the life of the church. There's no character school this morning, and so if you are with us and you are a young person, you have this Sunday off. You get to hang out with your grown-ups that you brought with you this morning after the blessing. However, the nursery is open and available for those who need it. I have been asked to remind folks to park between the lines. I don't know if that's a moral statement, but as it gets snowy out there and it's a little bit harder to see the lines in the parking lots and things like that, let's be a little bit more mindful. Our parking lot is as yet still reduced in size due to the ongoing construction work in the church, and that will continue on into the spring. On Sunday morning, we save that parking lot across the street for folks who have disabilities or other folks who maybe need to park a bit closer to the church, and that's why that gate is down. If you don't have a gate code or a key card, please call the church and we will take care of you and make sure that you're able to park there. Everybody else can walk. I'm just kidding. You don't have to walk all the way here. We have a wonderful relationship with the Grand Rapids Community College, and we have a portion of their lot across the street from the church that's available as well on Sunday mornings. But if you have any issues parking or anything of that nature, you're welcome to give us a call at the church office, and we'll help out with that. Our soloist today, Claire Schweitzer, is unable to be with us under the weather, but that is okay. We wish Claire absolutely all the best, and we will celebrate Claire's gifts later on in the coming year. But Todd Wilkie is with us today, our accompanist, somebody who has been part of the backbone of the music program of this church for a while, and we are so delighted to have you with us today, Todd. Thank you. I know that many of your bulletins are a little bit messed up this morning. That is 100% my fault. And so I own that, and I apologize in advance. I will be sure to announce the hymn numbers ahead of the hymns. And this won't make a difference for the folks joining us online, but if you see a little bit of confusion, it's because the map is not the territory. Finally, I want to let folks know that during the month of January, I will be preaching a sermon series on the theology of Fountain Street Church. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So I hope that you will join us on Sundays in January for this 4-part series on the theology and history of theology at this church, now 155 years old. We do believe that peace is a powerful force for good and for creation. The work that we sow into our community is rooted in peace. It comes from many different traditions. It comes from many different ideas and cultures. But at its very core, it is the unshakable belief that peace is worth pursuing. And so in a moment, I'm going to offer you a blessing of peace as we prepare for this new year, and I'll invite you to share that word of peace with one another before we sing our first hymn this Sunday, which will be number 241, In the Bleak Midwinter. And so now, friends, miracles, may peace be with you. Let's go ahead and share words of peace.
I invite you to participate in responsively reading the first reading, adapted from Mary Sheldon's Into Many Coming Years. We cannot know what all the year may bring, and would we heed the prophecy if we could? Flames, wake, sent forth your shining light beyond this year into many coming. Show us the ways of love and help and care, of justice mercy, and equality. Show to the world a beacon of safe harbor.
Because they experienced injury, a broken leg. I've never seen a 3-year-old with a broken leg, but she's making it 3-year-old. We can, you know what? Let's do it this way. This morning is very special to me because it is the first Sunday of Christmas, of which there are only 2. And this morning we have about 2 or 3 kids with us, and a few are upstairs in the nursery. So I'm going to make this blessing very special and very simple before we return to our seats. So, all of you who are here, who are children of creation, I'll invite you to join me in this blessing, and we'll do it this way. Please go ahead and raise your hand to receive a blessing if you wish, and you may recite this with me if you wish as well. This coming year, we will seek peace. We will seek justice. We will seek justice. And we will seek community. So may it be. All right, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Am I too early? Sorry. Good morning. The second reading is from John chapter 1, verses 1 to 18, translated and adapted by Nathan. In the beginning was the Word, the Logos, and the Logos was with God, and the Logos was God. The Word, the Logos, was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through the Word, and without the Word, not one thing came into being. What has come into being in this Word was life, and this life was the light of all people.
And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it.
There was a prophet sent from God whose name was John. John came as a witness to testify to this light, so that all might believe. John himself was not the light, but he came to testify to the light. The true light which enlightens everyone was coming into the world.
The Word, the light, was in the world, and the world came into being through the Word, yet the world did not know it. The Word came to its own, and they did not accept it. But to all who received the Logos and who believed in the nature of the Logos, it gave them power to become children of God.
Children who were born not of blood, or of the will of flesh, or of the will of humankind, but of God.
And the Logos became flesh and lived among us. We have seen its glory, the glory of an only child filled with grace and truth. John the prophet testified to this when he cried out,
It is Jesus to whom I said, "He who comes after me ranks ahead of me, because he was before me."
From the fullness of Jesus, we have all received grace upon grace.
No one has ever seen God.
No one has ever seen God.
No one has ever seen God. It is the Logos, this God, the only child, who dwells in the womb of the Creator. And it is the Word, the Logos, the Christ, who has made the Creator known.
Thanks be to God. Fountain Street Church, happy Sunday. Permit me to pray for myself. Batter my heart, O three-person God. You as yet but knock, breathe, shine, seek to mend, that I may rise and stand. Bend your force to break, blow, burn, and make me new. Take me to you and imprison me, for I, except you enthrall me, shall never be free, nor ever chaste, except you ravish me. Amen. This year so far, since I began preaching with all of you the second week in September, we have taken as a sort of governing framework the divine feminine in all of its many forms. And I've shaped our worship liturgy an expression to gently hold fast to a few ideas. And most of this is at work beneath the surface in the architecture of the worship service. Whenever we've used Jewish or Christian scriptures, I've used translations by Dr. Will Gaffney, a womanist scholar of the Old Testament, and her tremendous 4-volume work is called a women's lectionary for the whole church. It's been a light shining on the next hilltop from week to week. And the other readings and poetry and texts that we've used have been authored by women from many different religious traditions, including quite a few Unitarian Universalist clergy voices, and also many writers from the life and history of Fountain Street Church. And our musicians have done a tremendous job of celebrating women composers, and our readers, or liturgists, if you're feeling spicy, have been women of the church often who have each of them a unique voice and perspective. And we've privileged the feminine names for God throughout the Bible. And if this frustrates the people who prefer the male voice, the male name for God, you can deal with it. You got your way for 2,000 years. We're just going to try it a different way for a minute. That's fine. With the text that I chose for this Sunday, the first chapter of John's Gospel is one of the most difficult bits of the New Testament to translate. And so I gave myself a Christmas present and translated it on my own. Now, I'm not sure that I've improved anything, and there's going to be plenty of fundamentalists who will email me and gladly see me martyred over that. Because fundamentalists in every religion worship the letter over the spirit, and the letter killeth, and the spirit gives life. And they worship the Bible instead of worshiping God. For I will not worship the Bible, and I do not worship the Bible for the same reason that a set of blueprints isn't a house, a recipe isn't a meal, and money isn't edible. But I've always loved John's Gospel. Personally, it's very poorly understood, I think, despite being so perfectly lovely in so many ways. The context of John's Gospel is challenging. John's Gospel was written roughly 80 years after the events that it describes. The distance between the authorship of the Gospel of John and, say, the Gospel of Mark is about the same distance between today and Woodstock. The distance between the Gospel of John's authorship and the events it describes is like us writing about World War I. There's a lot that happened between those two times. And unlike the Gospels of Matthew and Luke, which begin with a nativity story, there's Bethlehem and shepherds and angels, old King Herod. The Gospel of John begins with the creation of the universe. I've always wanted to see a children's Christmas pageant based on John's Gospel instead of Matthew and Luke. You have two little kids come out in front of the church, and then one of them, it's like a light hits them, and one of them shouts, "I am the cosmic singularity. I am the star furnace of creation." And the other child says, "I am the Holy Word that dwells within the womb of God." And the parents kind of, "What?" "Frank, I thought you said this was a Methodist church." Another little kid shuffles on stage. He's wearing animal skins and eating grasshoppers. He says, "My eyes have seen the glory of the unutterable word of creation. It is enfleshed. It lives among us." What the hell? Nobody ever does that. There's no John pageant. Directed by Darren Aronofsky. There are at least a half a dozen different creation stories in the Bible. This library of texts was written over the course of thousands of years. There's at least 6. There's probably more. I haven't bothered to count all of them. And they all say different things about the beginning of the universe. And they all reflect the context of the history, the challenges that people who are writing them are living in. And then in that first century period, around the year 100 AD, the concept of reason as an object of divine worship, is saturating that part of the Greek world, the Hellenistic world. In the culture in which John was written, the Greeks, they don't worship personal gods, that are like with creatures with names. They worship metaphors and mysteries symbolized by these gods. And they worshiped Athena. It was an embodiment of the values of reason. And this concept is what often gets translated as logos or word. It refers to reason, but also order in opposition to chaos. But it can also mean discourse, conversation. And it's a damn hard one to translate. It gave St. Jerome fits in the 4th century. Jerome was translating the Bible into the Latin Vulgate in the 4th century. I got to sit at his writing desk in Bethlehem. I didn't get much work done there, but he couldn't find a good word to translate the Greek word in John, logos, into Latin. And he ended up using in principio erat verbum, which it literally means in the beginning was the word, verbum. But verbum in Latin and logos in Greek mean pretty different things. Now in Hebrew, and please remember, John was writing in Greek, not in Hebrew. In Hebrew, there's an important parallel story about a person or a thing or a concept or a presence who's there at this time of creation. It is Chokmah. Chokmah is translated into the Greek as Sophia, which is translated into English as wisdom. Wisdom, reason, either separate or somehow merged into this single person, logos, in the case of John. This is with God at the genesis of creation. This is this important point that they're trying to get across. And as John has it, all things, all the stuff that exists, came into being through this. And without them, not one thing came into being. And so this spirit, this concept, this presence, this thing that we can't seem to translate, it comes from the very heart of God. Now, your English Bible is going to translate this next part a few different ways. I'm talking about John chapter 1, verse 18, and I'll run you through a few of them. We can start with, this is describing the nature of this logos. We'll start with the King James. Now, no man hath seen God at any time. The only begotten Son, which is in the bosom of the Father, he hath declared him. Which is in the bosom of the Father. And that sounds, well, that's perfectly lovely. Bosom. What father doesn't gather his child to his bosom and lovingly put them inside their bosom? It's weird. It's clumsy. Now, the brave translators of the NIV, the New International Version, probably the worst of the bunch, have it. No one has ever seen God but the one and only Son, who is himself God and is in closest relationship with the Father, has made him known. Not closest relationship with God. Closest relationship. And the NRSV translates it, who is close to the Father's heart. Close to the Father's heart. It's a bosom, close to relationship. Something's going on here. It's touching, close to God's heart. It's a little sterile. Ho onais ton kolpan to patros. That's the Greek. That's what was written in John. Close to God's heart, in God's bosom. What is this? The Logos is being described as being in the kolpan of the patros, the kolpan of the Father. Kolpan is the operative word here in the Greek. And this is what is getting messed around with in the translations. King James has it as bosom. NIV has it as closest relationship to. NRSV has close to the Father's heart. And still others have it as at the side of God, kolpan. But if you traveled to Greece today and you found yourself a native Greek speaker and you said, what does the word kolpan refer to? They would say, a bay. A bay? Yes, like where you irritating foreigners park your gigantic cruise ships. A bay. So Jesus, the Word, was a boat parked in the bay of God? That makes no sense. Jesus liked boats, but he wasn't a boat. What the hell is going on here? Why is the Greek word kolpan, a bay, getting translated around as close to the heart, or very near the side, or in the bosom of, or even inside the bosom of the Father? Because the word kolpan does mean bay, and bay is a euphemism. It's a euphemism for a place of safety that people come out of when departing for a great journey. It is a euphemism for the word womb. Your mother's womb was the bay from which your ship departed. And perhaps now you see why the men who translated the Bible tied themselves up into pretzels over this stuff. And because the author of John uses that word kolpan and the word father in the same sentence. The author uses the word God in other parts, theos, but then they use the word father, patros. I'm not committing some crime against translation here. No one has ever seen God except for the only begotten God, the one who is in the womb of the Father. That's problematic for people who use this as a destination instead of a roadmap. Reason and wisdom are within God at the moment of creation. God gives birth to wisdom and reason. And wisdom and reason are the very womb of God. Well, why does this matter? I think it matters today because we know more now today about the beginning of the universe than ever before. Science has told us a great deal about the nature of things that were born at the moment of creation 14 billion years ago. In the beginning was the singularity, infinite heat and density. And then something happened, and the singularity gave birth to the four fundamental forces of the universe: gravity, the strong force, the weak force, and the electromagnetic force. And thus came forth all manner of things. And this is the journey of cosmology. It's the science of the nature and origin of the universe, careful study of the order of creation. Upon this is built all of our mathematics and physics, all of our technology, material sciences, biology, chemistry, all born of these four fundamental forces. And in the beginning was the singularity of infinite creative power and generative force, and from this came forth wisdom and reason. From Proverbs chapter 8, it's from the Hebrew Bible, the book of Proverbs, wisdom's own words. The Lord created me at the beginning of creation, the first act of long ago. Ages ago I was born. At the first, before the beginning of the earth, when there were no depths, I was brought forth. When there were no springs abounding with water, before the mountains had been shaped, before the hills I was brought forth. And then I was with God, like a master worker, and I was daily God's delight, dancing before God always, and dancing in the inhabited world, and delighting in the human race. The Gospel of John is trying to bring wisdom and reason, and by extension, ethics and morality and community and relationship to bear on the entire cosmic project of creation. So to say, then, if anything can be said, that these things may be found in the teachings and the way of Jesus, the person about whom the authors are very concerned with. That Jesus is, for the people who wrote John, quite literally, wisdom taking on flesh and form. And that the light of God, which is logos, word, wisdom, that this light is from the very beginning of time. And it is accessible to all. It is for all. And it delights in all. The same Godlight that was born at the moment of creation, the same Godlight that came forth from that womb, for what better word would the ancients have for the cosmic singularity out of which everything was born than womb? Why wouldn't they use that word? This is a function of the order of the universe. In the same manner in which we have our four fundamental forces of physics, there was another. There was something else. Something that delights in humankind. Do we still believe that there could be some kind of moral architecture to the universe? That something that we obviously don't have a word for, haven't found a word for, something that defies our attempts at language, could be dancing away like wildfire just beneath the surface of the world. Like magnetism or gravity, the nuclear forces, some other force that leapt forth at the moment of Genesis. It is a very hard thing to try to put into words. And they've tried and failed for thousands of years. I take from this only one good and important thing, though. It is the same little light that I carry into every new year. If I ever had a New Year's resolution, and I don't, that's not really my style. I don't like to set myself up for disappointment. But it is this. Despite everything else, despite my passing feelings of despair and isolation, despite the alienation that I sometimes feel from society or the world, my culture of origin, or from the church, despite all of this, I am not alone. I am not alone. In the same way that the earth is not alone, but orbits the sun, and so too the moon orbits the earth, and all of this because there is a fundamental force that we call gravity that keeps them in relationship with one another, so too I am not alone. There is something else beneath the surface. It saturates me. It pulls me. It is as old as the universe itself. It was born out of that single moment of creation. Its nativity story is much older than anything having to do with shepherds and angels and mangers. And then it is known by many names, and all of them are insufficient. And it dances. It dances. And it rejoices in the inhabited world and in humankind. And it calls to me, its voice still and soft, and sometimes heartbreakingly beautiful, and sometimes it ravages me like an earthquake or a thunderstorm. It is that Logos, the Sophia, some other name, and it will never leave me, in the same fashion that gravity will never leave me. And into this dancing primordial Godlight, I place all of my faith, and all of my hope, and all of my trust. And this is sometimes what I mean when I say that we will all worship something. There is a Godlight that is burning away like wildfire in this world. It appears in the corner of your eye at the intersections of miracles. It shows up when people choose to become all flame and all love and all mercy and all peace. And so may you then find a year to come that is absolutely saturated with holy light and with the joy it brings. And may you have eyes to see it. And as for me, I will watch the stars and sing small songs, and I will dance. Amen. This season of December, we have invested into this community all of our gifts and offerings that we have taken up together as a church. I am so honored and delighted to share that we raised through our offering plates over $35,000, the benefit of this city and the people who live here. Today, as I invite the ushers to come forward and receive the offering, I invite you to open your hearts to this community and to the possibility that lays before us in the coming year. At this time, I invite the ushers to receive our gifts and offerings, and I thank you. As we prepare for the year to come, renew our spirits that we may run this race. Help us to see with new eyes those in need, and help us to envision a future where there may be none in need. So may it be. Friends, let us remain standing and join our voices together one last time for our recessional hymn, number 228, Once in Royal David's City. Friends, may you go forth into the world knowing that you are deeply, truly, and unconditionally loved by a wordless force that binds us together. Go forth into this world and seek a new year of abundance, love, gratitude, and overwhelming joy. So may it be.